This is part 2 of our video on starter care. Starter care, as you saw in video 1, is just really important because without proper starter care, the bread doesn't turn out and then it gets thrown out, or worse, gets baked off and served to the customer anyway. So the starter, if you read the directions on the top of this lid, tells you everything that you need to know, but I'm going to go over it anyway. The most important thing is you need to work down the starter to 2 cups. It says 2 cups there or less before building it back. So you want to work it down to just a little bit right there. The more you can build it up, the frothier and foamier and healthier it is. So if you can't work the starter down, if you get stuck with like 8 quarts or whatever, and you can't work it down by making croissant dough or cinnamon rolls, or we actually have a bread recipe that's for using up extra starter. So if you plan ahead, you could use up the extra starter, but if you can't use it up by the end of the day, what you need to do is pour it off into another container and put it in the refrigerator. We got the ice bucket for this, but you can see we had 4 quarts. So if we're gonna at least double 4 quarts, then we're going to be up to 8 quarts. Then the next day we're going to be up to 16 quarts, and before you know it, there's starter all over. So you need to pull excess starter off if there's excess starter. So it reminds you right here, make more dough if you need to work it down more, or pour off and refrigerate. Be sure to at least double the starter volume. More is better. You want to go at least 4 times. You can limp by with doubling it one day, but if you do that 2 or 3 or 4 days, it just makes the starter really lethargic, and then your loaves of bread are only about that tall. They're really thin because there's not strength in the starter. So finish reading this. You want to build it up to the amount on prep sheet, which I will show you the paperwork for the starter. These are the prep sheets over here. This tells you down at the bottom how much starter you need to build to, and the amounts differ depending on what needs to be made. So this is all organized to go forward. So if today is Wednesday, for example, Wednesday right here, you would want to build it up to 10 quarts of starter, whereas on Monday you would only need 6 quarts. So this is all offset. So you're making more starter on Wednesday and Thursday, and that's so that you can make more dough on Thursday and Friday and then bake off more bread on Saturday. So it's all incorporated in. So this is your Bible. You want to refer to this. So there's another video on how to use this prep sheet, but what you want to do is figure out today's starter, and today is actually Monday. So 6 quarts is what we want to build to. So on our needs to be made today sheet down here at the bottom, we're just going to write 6 quarts. So if we're going to build up to 6 quarts, we need to have it worked down at least to 3 quarts. But we worked it all the way down there. So in order to figure out how much to build it up, in order to go to 6 quarts, that's kind of halfway between 4 and 8. So it's better to round up if you don't have the exact amount, because if you round down, then you're going to be short and not be able to make enough dough the next day. So this calls for 6, and we're going to go to 8. And this is the sheet right here for how much to add to build up the starter. Read all this stuff right here. Work the starter down to less than 2 inches. Either make more stuff or pour off the excess and refrigerate, which is what we did. We poured it off. Make sure that you label it, or people aren't going to know what it is. So here are directions for 4 quarts and 8 quarts. So we're going to take the 8 quarts. We want to use 12 cups of water and 4 pounds of flour. So just get 12 cups of water, 4 pounds of flour. Dump the water in first. Do it a little aggressively so that it'll stir up the stuff in the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and get some water and show you that. Okay, so we're just going to take this water and just kind of splash it in like that. And as you can see, that mixes up the stuff on the bottom so that the starter that was down there is all incorporated into the water. And then just take the flour, which has already been weighed out, dump the flour in like that, and give it a stir. You don't have to get it totally smooth, but you do want to mix it up. So it can have lumps in it. Like that is pretty good. That's good right there. See, it's got lumps in it, but it'll eat through the lumps. And then just cover it back up and make a note of how full it is. So we're actually at about 7 quarts right there, which is good. And a couple of things to mention: if you put this lid on all the way firmly, it can sometimes blow it off from the pressure of creating starter. And if it starts to get fruit flies around it, which it will every once in a while, just put a garbage bag on it when you push it back and just keep everything meticulously clean. But along the lines of meticulously clean, this is starter, which has been around since the 1980s. So you never, ever, ever want to take this and empty it and clean it. You always want to save what's in there and build it up. So now we're going to go over to our build-up form using a dry erase marker. You want to put the start and then when you worked it down to and what you built it up to. So as you can see from here, somebody built it down to 4 and they only worked it up to 6, and there's their initials there, so we know who to blame. But it says right here to make sure that you double the starter, and 6 is not doubled from 4. So it's very important to double it, and the reason that we keep this is because we started this at 6 and we worked it down to about 1, and then we built it up to 6, and then initials like that. And so if there's ever a problem with the bread, we can trace it back to the starter. So this is a good one right here, 2 to 8, that's perfect. That's kind of marginal. 4 to 8 and 4 to 8 is marginal, but 2 to 8 really puts a spring in its step. 4 to 6 is not good enough at all. 1 to 6 is good. So that's about all there is to know about the starter. The paperwork over here tells you how much you need to make, and we've already put the 6 in right here, so we've built it up to where it was supposed to be. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching.